Hello, welcome to Spell Day. We're covering a spell every single day of the year from the 5e PHB +3. Those +3 spells are homebrew spells. We're at +2 at the moment. You can head back and playlist to find them. And today's spell is Storm of Vengeance. Now that's a name. 9th level Conjuration, casting time of 1 action, range of sight, components verbal somatic, duration concentration up to 1 minute. A churning storm of cloud forms centered on a point you can see and spreading to a radius of 360 feet. Lightning flashes in the area, thunder booms, and strong winds roar. Each creature under the cloud, no more than 5,000 feet beneath the cloud when it appears, must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes 2d6 thunder damage and becomes deafened for 5 minutes. Each round you maintain concentration on this spell, the storm produces additional effects on your turn. So, like a lot of spells with additional effects or lists underneath them, we're going to be covering them, we're going to shortly discuss them every time we get to one. Round 2, acidic rain falls from the cloud. Each creature and object under the cloud takes 1d6 acid damage. So, player combat-wise, doesn't sound like much. 1d6 on one turn. That's a guaranteed 1d6 acid to everything in a 365 radius. There's no save. Yes, a minor tick amount, but look at your average commoner's health pool. Add on to that the 2d6 thunder you did to, again, every creature within that radius on the first round. Yes, the first 2d6 were on a save, but we'll get to that. It's just the fact it also mentions objects, just includes weapons, tents, buildings, infrastructure, bridges, trees. Just a little bit, a d6 spread over a 360-foot radius, guaranteed. Round 3, you call 6 bolts of lightning from the cloud to strike 6 creatures or objects of your choice beneath the cloud. A given creature or object can't be struck by more than 1 bolt. A struck creature must make a dexterity saving throw. The creature takes 10d6 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. So while it's only 6 targets, it's a similar conversation that came up with Call Lightning, namely because this can target objects, not just creatures. Meaning, I don't think an object can dodge out of the way of a guaranteed 10d6 lightning damage and the 1d6 acid it took earlier, when considering an object that it can't dodge. And even if you can, you still take half damage from what's virtually 6 upcasted lightning bolts. 10d6. Call Lightning isn't even that. Well, Call Lightning is that over time, but you get what I mean, in one turn. Round 4, hailstones rain down from the cloud. Each creature under the cloud takes 2d6 bludgeoning damage. There you go again. Guaranteed 2d6 bludgeoning to everything. Well, each creature, but still. Each creature, guaranteed. They now have guaranteed, excluding saves and targeting, guaranteed they have taken 3d6 damage at some point. Again, look at your average commoner, your basic guard or soldier or goblin. Round 5 through 10, gusts and freezing rain assail the area under the cloud. The area becomes difficult terrain and is heavily obscured. Each creature there takes 1d6 cold damage. Range weapon attacks in the area are impossible. The wind and rain count as a severe distraction for the purposes of maintaining concentration on spells. Finally, gusts of strong wind ranging from 20 to 50 miles per hour automatically disperse fog, mist, and similar phenomenon in the area, whether mundane or magical. I mean, come on. Okay. 1d6 doesn't sound like that much. That is 6 additional rounds of a guaranteed damage dice to every target, every creature under that cloud. So just counting the guaranteed damage, not even saves or half damage or targeted effects. Over a 360-foot radius, it is guaranteed 9d6 damage, 2d6 bludgeoning, 6d6 cold, and 1d6 acid. Again, I remind you, your average commoner, your average soldier, your average goblin. The reason I'm vying for this spell is I haven't been able to use this in my games. It's been threatened in a game, but I haven't seen it played, and whenever I've been in discussions revolving around this, a lot of people talk down on this. And I just, compared to some other spells, yes. But it's... Okay, you know what? To prove my point, let's go with a bit of an example, shall we? There once was a town called Bogen Hoff. A frontier town, being built up on the edges of the Elderwood. A fabled forest known with many a story of hags, witches, the fae, and many a beast. Though after generations of adventurers and plucky explorers heading in and coming back unscathed, the hunters came, then the lumbermen, then the farmers, and soon a mayor. Bogen Hoff had been founded. Up to its age of 3 generations, Bogen Hoff was growing, quite fast and quite wide, taking the nearby woods as human domain. And on a day just like any other, Bogenhofen would be no more. As evening turned to utter darkness, a cloud forming in mere seconds, a storm that had the rage of the gods behind it, had thundered out in a cry deafening the populace. It was in these first few seconds many had believed the gods had turned against them, many simply dying in the streets from hearing the cacophony. And as many came outside to look at what had befallen the sacred town, what roars and cries come from the newly darkened sky, their flesh begins to peel, as acidic droplets rain upon the children staring up at the vengeance of the gods. As the screaming truly begins, the bell tower of the church rings out in panic, attempting to warn of whatever disaster is currently befalling Bogen Hoff, only for it to be struck by a bolt of lightning, silencing the bells. Priests, guards, even the mayor, all struck in smoke just like the tower. Those who were attempting to bring order back to the town erased in an instant. As the panic continued, many attempted to flee out into the fields, some back to their homes, only for hailstones to fall upon the heads of any who attempted to run. The town whittled down to a fraction of its previous souls. It is now befallen by the wind. Each aching second, months worth of frostbite being felt and ached in moments. Hypothermia setting in, mothers holding their children trying to warm them. Wind tearing apart buildings, towers falling, grand statues, monuments to this town and its kingdom. Fallen. Bogen Hoff has fallen silent. There is not a word, there is not a horn, there is not a cry of victory. Only the stillness of death as the sun returns. You gotta give it for flavor and world building. This is what you give an Archdruid character and why people fear Druid circles. Because yes, a big city might be able to withstand or find shelter underneath this kind of storm. A small frontier town moving into a Druid circle's domain, they're dead. They are dead. An army amassing to then go and search out these Druids or this Wood Elf enclave, they're dead. You get this back on a long rest. Even people trying to defend themselves with other concentration spells aren't gonna work. Difficult terrain on a 360 foot radius. Over a vertical wise, 5,000 feet. Again, difficult terrain, highly obscured, counts for everything under that. It's not just the ground floor. It's a 5,000 foot tall cylinder with a 360 foot radius. For those 6 turns of heavily obscured, difficult terrain that you can't hold concentration in, and that in ranged attacks are impossible. Not difficult, not at disadvantage, not at half the range or a quarter of the range. Impossible. Catapults can't even fire. Not to mention, strong winds. Alright, again, this is a special episode. Let's bring up clips of some things in between 20 to 50 mile per hour winds. It's bad. Similar to the earthquake scenario, where it's not even just the people you're targeting, it is the infrastructure, it is the buildings, it's just where people are staying at. Those strong winds, even though it doesn't have a listed damage against objects, it's doing damage against objects and structures. Modern day buildings and infrastructure have a hard time keeping up with those scale winds. Do you think a Renaissance level city is going to be able to hold up to it? Or some basic military camp just full of tents? A ship out on the water? This takes an action to cast. An action. Range of sight. Depending on how range of sight is ruled with familiars, and even if you can't do it through looking through something else, or through scry, or whatever, you still have telescopes, you still have mountain peaks you can look off of, you still have trees you can head up into and look down, you have wild shape that you can have people carry you up there with, or yourself. Sight's only there for the initial casting, because round 3, the lightning bolts you get to choose, it's not targets in sight, it's targets in the affected radius, below the cloud. But you don't need to see them at the time you choose them. If you know they're there and you choose them, they get struck by that lightning. The sight's only for the initial casting. And just like Earthquake, if you know what your 6 targets are with that, you can just leave. You can just get out of there. Teleport out, wild shape out, fly out, whatever. Yes, there are other 9th level spells that you can argue in the Adventurer's hands are way more readily accessible or used in an immediate combat or dungeon crawler against a single boss. But world building wise, this is why people would fear Archdruids in Druidic circles. This is why there are still lands out on the frontier that are considered wild and under their domain, that no mortal man should cross into, because along its border are ruins upon ruins upon ruins. Entire islands and reef banks that no one dares tread towards, not because sirens will sing you down into the water, but a siren will rise up and bring a storm of vengeance upon your fleet. Guaranteed 96. Guaranteed. Funky uses with gate, yes. Shape change, yes. But world building wise, the big thing of you just want an area gone. Even Earthquake has a chance. Creatures can just be standing away from buildings. Yes, it'll destroy the buildings, but they can be away from it. This targets creatures. And in base 5e, the ability for a spellcaster of this level to get this back every day. Storm of Vengeance. 10 out of 10. If you need a horde wipe, if you need an army wipe, if you need a village erased off the map and the people forgotten, Storm of Vengeance.